It was one of those evenings when the rain painted silver streaks across the cafe window, and the city's glow looked softer, calmer, like even the world outside was tired. Inside the cafe, the chatter of plates and cups filled the air. Waitress Lena Parker wiped a table near the window, humming quietly to herself. She'd been working double shifts lately, not for herself, but for her younger brother's medical bills. Lena wasn't the kind of woman who drew attention. She wore her hair tied back neatly, spoke gently, and carried a calm grace that often went unnoticed. But there was a sharpness in her eyes, the kind that came from quietly observing the world and understanding it faster than it understood her. That night, a group of men in tailored suits entered loud, confident, the kind of people who carried wealth like perfume. Among them was Martin Hale, CEO of Hale Dynamics, one of the country's biggest tech firms. He sat at his favorite corner table, surrounded by executives, tossing around words like merger, algorithm, and innovation, as if they were toys. Lena served them with her usual politeness. She placed down glasses of water and menus when she heard Martin say, half laughing, "I told the engineers fix this algorithm and I'll give them 100 million. But none of them could even understand the flaw." The table erupted in laughter. It was the sound of arrogance, smooth, echoing, and sharp enough to sting. Lena, setting down a napkin, paused just slightly. 100 million? One of the men chuckled. "That's cheaper than replacing your team." At this point, Martin said with a smirk, "Even my waitress probably thinks she could solve it." The laughter grew louder. Lena smiled faintly, not out of embarrassment, but out of understanding. She'd heard worse, but something inside her, a quiet confidence, refused to shrink. Later, when the group ordered coffee, Lena brought it with a small, folded note beneath Martin's cup. He didn't notice it until he lifted the saucer. It read in neat handwriting, "Your formula fails because your variable loop resets mid-process. Check line 47. For a moment, Martin froze. The letters seemed to blur. How could she possibly know that? He looked up, scanning the cafe, but Lena was already taking an order from another table. Something in his expression shifted, not anger, not disbelief, but curiosity. When they left, Martin pocketed the note without a word. But that night, back in his office, curiosity got the best of him. He reopened the company's code, scrolling to line 47, and there it was. The flaw, the one his engineers had missed for months, the program compiled perfectly. The algorithm stabilized. He sat back, stunned. Who is this woman? He whispered. The next morning, a black sedan parked outside Lena's cafe. Martin stepped out in his crisp gray suit, scanning the room until he saw her again. Balancing a tray, unaware of his gaze, he approached her table slowly. "Excuse me," he said, his voice quieter than usual. "You left this note yesterday." Lena blinked, unsure what to say. "I'm sorry. Was it inappropriate?" "Inappropriate?" he repeated, almost laughing. "You just solved $1 million problem overnight." The cafe went silent. A few customers turned to look. Lena flushed, unsure what to do with the sudden attention. "How did you know?" he asked. "My brother studies coding," she said softly. "He used to show me his assignments. I like figuring out patterns. Sometimes I just see what's wrong." Martin stared at her for a long moment, at her worn apron, her tired but bright eyes. "Come by my office tomorrow," he said finally. "I want to show you something." And before she could protest, he left a business card on the counter. Martin Hale, CEO, Hale Dynamics. That night, Lena sat in her small apartment, staring at the card. Her brother, Ethan, peeked over her shoulder. "You're going, right?" he asked. "I don't know," she whispered. "People like him, they don't really mean it." "Then prove him wrong," Ethan said with a grin. "Like you always do." When the sun rose the next morning, Lena dressed in her neatest blouse and took a deep breath before entering the glass tower that scraped the sky. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing the vast marble floor of Holly Dynamics. Everything gleamed from the glass walls to the polished chrome desks. Lena felt out of place, holding her small purse. Wearing shoes that had seen too many 12-hour shifts, a receptionist spotted her immediately. "Can I help you?" she asked with a polite but distant smile. I'm here to see Mr. Hale," Lena replied. Within minutes, she was ushered into a boardroom overlooking the city. The skyline stretched like a dream, unreachable and glittering. Martin Hale stood by the window, looking different from the man she'd seen in the café, quieter, more thoughtful. "You came," he said, turning to her. "Good. I wasn't sure you'd really meant it," Lena admitted. "I did. And I owe you an apology and maybe a story." He gestured for her to sit. The room was empty except for them. On the table lay a laptop, open to lines of code. "You see this?" he said, pointing to the screen. "This project has taken us 2 years. Hundreds of engineers, millions of dollars, and not one of them saw what you did." "It was just a small error," Lena murmured. "Small errors collapse big empires," he replied softly. "You've reminded me of something I forgot: humility." For the first time, Martin smiled genuinely, not with the smug confidence she'd seen before. "Tell me," he said, "what do you want to do with your life?" Lena hesitated. "I just want my brother to finish college. That's all." He nodded, then slid a folder across the table. Inside, a single sheet and employment offer. "I'm starting a mentorship program for people who never had a chance to study what they're born to do," he said. "I want you to be the first." Her hands trembled as she read the offer. Full scholarship for her brother. A job as a trainee analyst. More than she'd ever dreamed. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because you looked at a problem the way no one else did," he said. "Not as a barrier, but as a pattern waiting to be understood." Lena looked out the window. The city, once intimidating, now felt smaller. Reachable. She smiled faintly. "You know," she said, "you were right about one thing yesterday." "What's that?" "Even your waitress can solve it if you give her a chance." Martin laughed quietly, the kind of laugh that comes when pride finally makes room for respect. Weeks later, the cafe still buzzed with gossip. The girl who'd once carried trays now carried a badge that read Hala Dynamics. And sometimes, when she passed that corner table, she remembered the sound of laughter and how quickly it turned into silence. But Lena didn't crave revenge or recognition. She carried something rarer, the quiet satisfaction of knowing she'd turned mockery into meaning. And somewhere, in a glass tower high above the city, Martin Hale often stared at line 47, the one a waitress had fixed, and smiled at how humility had rewritten his life. 2.